What's up, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and in this one, I wanted to break down what's happening with SPY, Tesla, Nvda, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I'll talk about some big news that's coming out for the markets, what you should be watching for as time goes on. But just know that I am not a financial planner, so make sure you take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Webull link. If you deposit any amount of money, you're guaranteed 12 free stocks. If you deposit $500, you're guaranteed 20 in total. If you deposit $2,000 or more, and you're guaranteed 40. The offering is very soon in just about 8 days. Anyways, the market is dipping so far in the morning. This is what we talked about yesterday. In my video yesterday, I said expect some downside upon open. Then we'll be watching to see if there is a bounce later on, but make sure you watch your supports just to be safe. So for now, the market is starting off on a weak end, and we'll see how things develop as time goes on. For our data, just know that today is Wednesday, October 23rd, 2024. There's not really much data coming out for today. At 9 o'clock a.m., we have Bowman who started his speech. Not really affecting the market as well. And then later on down the line, we just have a very minor like housing data at 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time and a couple of bill auctions. So everything is very, very minor for today, nothing too significant. However, we do have something big for the other part of the market. That's going to be our earnings. So we had Boeing, AT&T, and Coca-Cola announced their earnings so far. When the market closes later on today, we have Tesla and IBM also announcing their earnings later on after market close for the day. All right, so we'll be watching those very, very carefully. Starting off with Coca-Cola, unfortunately, their demand is slowing, but they had good earnings overall because of the fact that they had to like raise prices. So we had an EPS beat at 77 cents adjusted above expectations. Revenue is just under 12 billion above expectations, but the slowdown in their demand is what basically excuse me, that's what basically slowed down their sales. So that's because unit case volume ended up falling. So that was why the share price is down about 2%. There's still sluggish demand. For AT&T, Q3 earnings are not bad whatsoever. We saw nice sales. Revenue is at about 30.2 billion. It's a little bit down year over year, but then their EPS was a beat of about 60 cents. So not bad. They also saw a lot of things that basically looked pretty good, such as their beat on postpaid phone net sales. So good growth, at least from that end. Some things were once again more bullish, other things were once again decent, and that's why the share price is still holding up nicely, but nice beat for the most part on earnings. Guidance was so so. For other factors out there, we had Boeing announcing their earnings. The share price is flat because of the fact that they had a loss that was a little bit less than expected, which is not bad. Revenue was a little bit above expectations, but there are more than 32,000 machinists on strike, so that's something worth noting. And they're talking about how they want to kind of reduce their costs and be very, very narrow with spending. So that's what basically came out. Now, the big one for the day is going to be Tesla's earnings later on after the market closes. Just know that Tesla's going to give us more insights on AI, the robotaxi, and the new technologies. And this is what we're expecting: revenue of about 25.4 billion. And we're also expecting EPS of about 51 cents adjusted. So that's what we're expecting, with net income at about 2.06 billion. So that's what we're going to be looking for, especially with their margins. But now let's just focus on the charts. What do I see for the remainder of the day? So let me just make it very clear. We're most likely going to start off on a low end for the markets. Expect us to dip a little bit upon open. SPY could be approaching the 580 area. If 580 to 579.5 does not hold us, this is going to be our 50 EMA. Expect us to dip all the way down closer to 577. That's where we have previous resistance becoming our support. 577 is coming if we end up losing 579.5. So make sure you keep that in mind, guys. Our resistance is at 582. If we break that, we're looking for a pushback up to 584. But so far, the chart looks a little bit more bearish for a little bit more downside potential. For Nvda, we're also dipping a little bit. We need to claim 144 to turn back up, but this chart is favoring 142 and then eventually 140 to be tested near our 20 EMA. So the downside risk is a little bit higher for Nvda. For ES, we're dipping a little bit, making lower highs. We're going to be looking at 58.74 as our support. If it does not hold, we're looking for a dip back down to 58.60, and we need to reclaim 58.86 to turn back up. This is going to be dipping a little bit lower, so just keep that as a heads up, especially as we have this like head and shoulders like structure. The same thing has been developing on SPY. So this might dip a little bit more, guys, to 58.60 or a little bit below that, and we'll see if we get a bounce later or not. But just know for now, there is some downside potential. For Tesla, we're just flat right now. We do have earnings coming out, so the main move is going to come out after earnings. Otherwise, Tesla's range bound between 215 and 220. So expect some sideways price action in that range. And we'll see if we get a big bounce or not later on down the line. But for now, we'll be watching this very, very carefully just to see how things end up going. So once again, guys, in my personal opinion, there is a risk of Tesla just consolidating in a range, not really doing a whole lot. It could end up pushing a little higher for like 219 to fill that gap, come back down, and just trade sideways. But then the real move is going to be coming after earnings. So wait till after close, and we're going to be looking for a 15 to 20 point move. So we're waiting to see what Tesla's about to do. For NQ, this is dipping a little bit. We're looking for 20,428 as our main support. If that fails us, we're looking for a dip back down to 20,300. We have resistance at 20,500, but my gut is telling me this might be dipping lower towards the 20,200s. So look for some downside on NQ, and we'll see if we bounce or not. For the QQQ, this is also looking a little bit more bearish. We need to reclaim 494. If we don't do that, there's a risk of us coming down to about 492. So look for a little bit more downside to 492, if not a little bit lower to where this gap happens to be. And we'll see if we get a bounce or not. But look for a little bit more downside for the time being upon open, and we'll see how it goes. Apple's also dipping. We need to reclaim 234. Otherwise, we're at risk of getting close to about 232. So look and see if we end up dipping a little bit lower to 232.5. For Netflix, we need to hold above 770. Otherwise, we're at risk of starting to dip back down towards 756 or so, all the way down to where this wick happens to be. So there's a risk of some downside, in my personal opinion, if we don't hold above 760. So keep that in mind, guys. That's what I'm seeing, at least thus far on the chart. For Supermicro, we're also dipping a little bit. This is on a bit of a downtrend move right over here, so just keep that in mind. That could be dipping towards 44 quite easily. The IWM has to hold 220. If 220 holds, we could attempt for 222 again. If 220 fails us, we're looking for 219 as support, followed by 217.8 at our 200 EMA. Looks a little bit more bearish to me. It does favor downside, so just keep that in mind if 220 fails us. For Coinbase look a little bit more bearish. We need to reclaim 207. Otherwise, we could be dipping back down towards 198. For Amazon, there is a risk of it dipping now. It kind of popped a bit. It's still outperforming the market, but I could be looking for a test of 188.5 to 187.6 before it tries to rebound. For Meta, we're attempting to rebound. Look for a test of 579 before it attempts to bounce. Look for a little bit of a dip here. We need to reclaim 585 to remain bullish, but I think it might dip to 579 or so. Microsoft is looking more bullish, but we'll look at some tough resistance around just under 432. We could push that, then reject and start dipping back down to 428. So give this the time it needs. Google is range bound. We have this tough resistance around 167. We could be dipping back down to 165 later on. So we'll have to see how things go from there, but look and see if we end up making that move. With that being said, guys, the market's going to likely dip upon open. Okay, so be prepared for that. Don't be surprised. And we'll see where it ends up bouncing if we do get some kind of bounce. Make sure you watch the supports I called out. I do anticipate 580 on SPY, if not lower, if that fails us. But then there could be a bounce later on during the day. Keep that in mind. That's what technicals are showing. We will see about the bounce, but for now we still look bearish. So don't just go long randomly. You have to wait and see and watch your charts very carefully. All right. Thank you for listening. Have a great day and peace out.